I was telling you about that always floods is over here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it floods is because they got a bunch of, here is the river. You see how the river is going through here? And the river kind of winds and twists. It's pretty weird. The forest that I was telling you about, the big huge lake that used to be in the center of the forest, that is all dried up now.
Wow.
Well, you can still see a little bit of, no, that's just like mud.
Yeah.
But once upon a time, that was like a 3 or 4 acre lake that was in the center of the LaBaugh Woods. The river runs through what the Park District engineers did 25 years ago was figure out a way to keep all the river water from overflowing and flooding what is the Gompers Park right here. And Gompers Park, you see, this is the field house with a swimming pool. When Gompers Park would flood, it would be 3 or 4 feet of water. It was like serious. It became Gompers Pond at some time. But they figure out a way to re-divert the water from the north side of Foster Avenue, this is Foster, to the south, which causes this park here to flood. This little pond, it's the Gompers Lagoon, and it's designated as a wetland. But that used to be all baseball diamonds and a football pitch way back in the day, as far back as like 2002. And then once they re-diverted the water and kind of did whatever they did, raising the ground along the river here, that water built up there and it never disappeared. So they just were
That's
like,
so
"We're not
crazy."
they still got one baseball field. But yeah, that became a wetland and nature preserve. See how the river kind of winds and twists?
Yeah.
Here is where we are, the Montrose Cemetery. And what was called the Waldron Spur, the train tracks that you mentioned before.
Yeah.
This is the train line.
Those were my guide to the Lost Cemetery. That's what I followed all the time.
The Lost Cemetery is this area here. You will notice that there are all these houses, this subdivision that was created called the Sauganash Homes. The Sauganash Homes were started between they broke ground in like 98, and then the very last home was put in 2001. You have 82 houses right here on what was all part of Montrose Cemetery.
Wow.
Me and Ron went digging on satellite images from like the 1960s and the 1970s, and this was still the grid, the roadway for this subdivision was exactly the same. That's the weird thing. They kept like the paved road the same as, you know, how the cemetery is carved up into sections.
Yeah.
And these were sections X, Y, and Z. Okay. Sections X, Y, and Z go all the way back to the 1880s, and they were a pauper's field that was loosely associated with the founders of Montrose Cemetery. So when they re-diverted all the water to the south, you have this little lake disappear from here, and then you had what used to be marshland right here also dry up and disappear behind these homes. The fact that they dug up what we figured to be about 250 graves and put these homes here is what created a lot of controversy.
Well, yeah.
But they did it legally now. You have, like I was explaining to you last week, the perpetual care contract that is 75 years. Not every single cemetery, a majority of cemeteries, especially here on the north side, and this cemetery for sure had a 75-year expiration date, basically, you could say. So from the information and the research that we did, around 1988 and 89, the directors of Montrose Cemetery figure out that they're going to not contact any of the families in sections X, Y, and Z, and they're just going to wait for the 75 years to expire. Like I told you, the first house was broken between 1998 to 2001. all of these graves that we're going to stumble upon back here, well, these headstones and monument markers, are all dated between 1922 and 1925, which 75 years later is 1997, 98, 99. So they purposely were not burying any more people in this section, and they purposely were not contacting any next of kin to see if they want. I believe it's like $500 to get another 25 years onto the perpetual
Wow, that's so
care.
deceitful, isn't it?
So they just waited for the time to expire, and then as soon as it was legit, come in with bulldozers.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So what year would that be when they did that? When they came in
Starting
with
in
the...
1998.
So what happened to, because I went to the Lost Cemetery in the 70s, and it seems like there were stones even older than that. Maybe I'm wrong. Unless it was their birth date that I was looking at. Like born 18 whatever.
Lost Cemetery in the 70s were people that were still legitimately buried there that weren't dug up.
But the tombstones were knocked over. That's why we used to go see it. They were like buried in the mud. They were knocked over.
Yeah.
It was a fence, like the hole. You could pull the fence
along
back.
the train tracks.
Yes, and we used to call it the Lost Cemetery because nobody was ever there. It was
That's
like...
what it's always been known as.
So those stones are still there, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But those are pretty much covered up. A lot of the flat ones. A majority of the ones that are above ground that have the watermark on them that are kind of laying on their sides and stuff like that.
Yeah, they
all
were on their
dated
sides.
Between, like I said, that time frame when they dug the people up, and pretty much.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we had someone email us and say, yeah, I remember like in the summer of 1999 when they first started building those houses along the railroad tracks, but hidden kind of in a trench along the tree line. There were stacks and stacks of wooden coffins all on top of each other. Man, for sure, with the bodies still in it.
Unbelievable.
So that's something that they got rid of and had to figure out a way to dispose of, either sinister or sanctimoniously. The headstones, though, were literally just picked up and then tossed into the swamp.
So we don't know what they did with the bodies then?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. That's kind of sick, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's 25 years at least. To get back to what I was saying about Montrose Cemetery and then this stretch of land along the train tracks, that was originally a pauper's field that was started in the 1880s. We have found proof that at least 5 of the unidentified, you have like the 600 souls, I believe it's like 623 that died at Iroquois. There were 10 of them that went unidentified, that were never identified. We have found evidence that some of the unidentified people from Iroquois Theater Fire were buried in that potter's field.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
We have found evidence that at least a handful of the 900 people that died in the Eastland disaster were also buried in that potter's field. You have here this whole North Park Village Nature Center, which is about a half a click northeast from where we are. This is all owned by Northeastern University and is part of the Chicago Park District. It's called Peterson Park. But between 1905 and 1945, this was a tuberculosis
yeah, the TB center. They turned some of that into a retirement village because my uncle lived there.
Starting in 1905, hundreds of bodies a year between 1905 and 1920 from the TB sanitarium, TB victims that were also buried in the potter's field where we are going to go. The thing is, the fact that it's just kind of like a wasteland and a disgraced, undisturbed like litter of, there should be like a memorial plaque or some type of historical designation. The fact that there is history tied into the souls that are buried in that ground there.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah.
I just find it incredibly disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad.
And that is kind of what we were pushing for through the archive master from WTTW Channel 11, the big PBS station, which, by the way, is just right next to Bohemian National.
And kids, I know back in the 70s used to use that area to tell ghost stories and all kinds of weird things going on back there.
Yeah. When Ron got on WGN TV and did that special for the news, we made mention of this to try to drum up some type of
Awareness and
something to maybe get that area designated. And within 24 hours, the office right over here, we're being bombarded by people angry and distressed, and we went through Deb and found a few of the relatives of some of the graves that are back there, and they're like, yeah, we have no idea that's great-great-grandpa.
So I thought that that area was part of the Bohemian National Cemetery, not the Montrose Cemetery.
Montrose Cemetery, formerly Pickett or Cricket was the old man that owned the Potter's Field, the Gypsy Graves.
So Brittan's taking us to the Lost Cemetery, which is in Chicago next to the Montrose Cemetery and across from Bohemian National Cemetery. I'm trying not to get Lisa in there. She doesn't like to be photographed, so that's why I do this, guys. But it's a little hard when she's walking right next to him. So I hope she understands. You used to be able to get to it from Gompers Park. Britton showing us where it was. Hey Britton, so you can't get to this through the Gompers Park area any longer where... Wow, that's crazy, because it was like... Well, what did they put up there? Because there was a...
You can follow the tracks all the way down to the bridge and get into the Labaw Woods.
Was this a train
Once
track?
these people's backyard ends right here, that's technically the Forest Glen. It's the Labaw Woods.
Oh. Did the train track run along here?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is it. This is where I used to walk. Except there wasn't a trail. We just kind of made our own trail.
Let's infiltrate right through here, ladies.
Sorry, Lisa, I don't mean to hit you if I hit you. A lot of brush here, guys, to get to this little lost cemetery. Aha, this is the fence.
Yeah.
This is a fence, so part of it is up.
Yeah. Here's a headstone.
Yeah, there's one right there. A headstone. Oh. I used to get to this through the woods when I lived in Chicago when I was a teenager. Me and my friends used to come down here and go to this lost cemetery, probably like a million other kids that age. And man. So there is a hole in the fence.
Yeah.
Okay. Ugh.
Got it.
Thank you. I'm going to hold this for Lisa. Wait. You didn't know you were going through this, did you? Yeah, this is something that Steve and Paul need to do.
And we're in.
Whoa. Yeah, and we're in. Yeah, see, like these stones are...
The cylinder plot markers are from the Pauper's Field. And you'll find them kind of numerically.
Is that what that was? I remember those and I always wondered why they were there.
over there with the names, with the writing on it.
Yeah, that's.
Through the coming through.
Yep, I see like 2 cement things right there.
Sectional.
Yeah.
You'll see a little bit of the numbers on there weathered away.
Oh yeah, there's the bigger stones. How big is this section? Do you know with the stones? Like, does it go from there to there, like where the road is, or?
This one pretty much where the backyards to the houses start.
Wow.
About half a mile along the tracks going south.
Wow.
Here's the, here we go. Markers 1425, 1424, and then they'll line up in sequence, you'll find. 1423. Yeah.
So those were the Paupers' graves?
Yeah,
the ones
Paupers'
with
graves.
those? Wow. All these little markers like that are Paupers' graves. Like that one.
Oh, this is one that we found relatives of him.
Wow.
Someone contacted that did some research on Haggop Carishian and actually found like a picture of him, I want to say.
Wow.
Ron had got somewhere on this name. We got some leads. Haggop Carishian, Armenian immigrant, was a tailor. And like I was saying with the dates, how they all, 75 years after, they're all between like
That's
22
crazy.
and 25.
That's just... So the cemetery waited for the perpetual care contract to run out after 75 years and dug this all up because they didn't need anybody's permission. They never contacted the family. Unbelievable.
Another crazy kind of urban legend about this area right here. You know, John Wayne Gacy,
I heard
the
some
Gacy
stories.
accomplice.
Yeah.
Well, he may or may not have been an accomplice, but him and his pal, his name was David Cram. His pal's name was Michael Rossi. They worked for John Wayne Gacy, and they were recruiters of his, going around finding young kids of, able-bodied to help with Gacy's construction, his contracting firms. Mike Rossi, David Cram, testimony, they admit they're the ones that dug the crawl space under Gacy's house.
Yeah.
As the urban legends go, David Cram might have been a helper or an accomplice with some of the murders, some of the abductions, but he got some type of immunity after he turned state's evidence against John Wayne Gacy. In 2001, David Cram, at that time, alcoholic, dealing with his demons, he camps out here for a couple days, hangs himself from this tree right here.
Isn't that
And they
crazy?
find David Cram's body. Yeah, supposedly this tree is the Cram tree.
Wow.
And the most
Unbelievable.
bizarre thing, the last time I was out here with some people, kind of telling them there was a rope. It was like
The rope was
construction
like
rope.
there or something?
Well, it wouldn't be the same.
Well,
rope, but
yeah.
Yeah. Supposedly the tree Cram hung himself from. And it would kind of make sense because all the other trees are not high enough
Yeah.
for you to get the leverage to, hang yourself. This one is at least 25, 30 feet high and looks strong enough, sturdy enough.
Yeah. This is crazy. Boy, I appreciate this, Brittan. I probably wouldn't have found it because it's so screwy now to get to.
You're welcome.
I really do appreciate it.
Good adventures on the go with Flo, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Brittan and Flo. Ron's gonna be mad I steal you all the time.
Hey, he loves me. He looks out for me. He appreciates what
I
I
know. I was just kidding.
do. And then on the flip side of that, I just have the utmost respect for Ron Carlson. Oh
Yep.
my God, my best friend. I owe him so much. I owe him
Yeah.
so much.
I think we all do. He's just a wonderful guy.
Absolutely. My inspiration. My inspiration till the end of time.
Look at that one's rounded and
Yeah, and you can see the base to it.
yeah, that's crazy. Can I get?
Mhm.
Yeah, I can get that.
And a couple of those we found and were able to trace back names. Those they're Italian names. And there's Key Riposa, Ui, Key Riposa. That's a famous engraving that they put on Italian graves. This is not going to reveal anything to us,
No,
unfortunately.
that one's really bad.
Yeah.
So many are just buried in the dirt. It makes you wonder how many are you can't see, because there's got to be some under the dirt.
Yeah, Chi riposa in Italian is here rests. Riposa in pace, rest in peace.
So this was just to was part of Montrose.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sections X and Y, you said?
XYZ. There is a lot more fallen trees and than there was the last time I was out here. We've had some pretty crazy storms since then.
It's getting
These
later.
tornadoes. Yeah, this kind of looks impenetrable going more south from this point. Let's try to get back on the path here and see if we can reveal some more.
Wow, that's how amazing you could read this one. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Theodore Carl Bloch, 1840 to 1923. Jeez. And this one too. Father. You know, this is just really sad.
Yeah. And again, the dates, like I said, 1922 to 1925.
I mean, you would think that his grandkids would be alive at least, if not even his kids still.
The old story goes, you got the 50-year time frame, man. Once you're in the ground for 50 years, whether it's your grandkids or great-grandkids, they kind of just forget about you. Unless you're super famous or,
I don't know.
And not all cultures. You got Asian cultures that,
Yeah.
hundreds of years, they still pay their respects to relatives and burn their candles and incense.
Maybe it depends how they were
ceremony.
treated when they were kids, too, you know?
Mhm.
They're not all close to their parents. Some
Yeah.
are not. So, but to be buried in the woods like this and just forgotten with a beautiful stone, I mean, just sad.
Well, let's follow Lisa here. She's found a pathway.
Okay. Another one upside down. There's another stone. You can read this one too.
This
John Sabat,
was a
August 4th, 1929. Member of Division 241 of the something. Oh, don't get your hands all messed up. I don't
but
think.
it's a union streetcar repairman.
Oh.
Streetcar mechanic, streetcar repairman.
Did you look him up or something?
Yeah.
And you know what that?
Yeah. Yeah, way back when we had streetcars.
Streetcar repairman, rest in peace, John. Yeah, that was my mom's era.
The old streetcars down
Yeah.
Western Avenue.
Yeah.
I hear the stories about it from my grandma.
I mean, I was the bus era with the electric, where they kept coming off the lines.
Italian. Key Riposa.
Yeah.
Paolo Bikini.
Yeah, Pickini. 1886, 1925. Yeah, so very. Looks like.
Someone drove the golf ball.
Oh,
4.
looks like they murdered it.
I read it, I don't know what to say.
And you know, I bet Chicago isn't the only one who has things like this. There's got to be other cities.
All over the world.
Yeah. But this is good old Chi-Town.
The almighty dollar will always.
Yeah, money talks. Oh, thanks. I wasn't realizing you were holding that.
One would have caught you.
Yeah. There's thorns on some of these.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some sharp thorns. Weird though how numerically they go opposite. Usually from south to north. These are all numerically going from north to south. Oh, I guess it all depends on who is standing on that side of it.
Is this a well-known area? I don't want a load of tourists to start coming down here. And
Yes.
it's well known, is it?
This famous, these woods are famous for the devil worshiper,
Right, yeah.
nefarious activity.
There's a website about it or
Yeah.
something.
My parents would always tell me stories, never go into the Laval Woods at night. Quite a few murders occurred here.
Really?
Yeah, a little girl, a freshman, she was killed by like a family friend, a guy in his, I think his late teens, he was 18 or 19. She was 14. He picked her up hitchhiking. She went to Mather High School, a couple miles from here. He picked her up hitchhiking. This was sometime in the 1970s. And dragged her out into the woods, raped her, choked her, dragged her down to that bridge where I was telling you where the river is, threw her over the bridge into the water, figuring that she'd get washed away. He failed at that. His testimony, he claims that he went back and, man, pretty horrific. Looked over the rail, saw that she was brushed to the shoreline and that she was still moving and breathing, and then he went down and like pulverized her head
Oh my goodness.
to finish her off. Yeah, that was in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. There's a story about a guy that was killed by a bunch of like a motorcycle gang out here in these woods over a drug debt. His nickname was Woodstock, like a skinny hippie dude. that went to Von Steuben, another one of the high schools. We're kind of in between Von Steuben and Mather area, for the school zones. And yeah, they beat him to death with a baseball bat, the story goes, over a drug debt. I firsthand in the late 90s was walking along the train tracks here with a buddy of mine. We were actually we were riding our bikes, kind of like off-road, hitting curbs and hills and stuff like that. There used to be like a couple man-made ramps and stuff that were kind of set up in the woods, but more towards that pond that I showed you there.
Yeah.
There's like a really hilly, cool area. And this would be the spring of 1997, I would say. I was about 18 years old. And yeah, me and my pal, we get to the train tracks here and we couldn't ride our bikes anymore because it was just too much gravel and too rugged. So we were walking our bikes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 motorcycle, leather-clad, big bearded dudes flying on their motorcycles, going down the railroad path into the area. We were just doing jumps and everything like that. We were always wondering, like, who would come out here and make these cool ramps and dig all this up and make it kind of not quite paved, but yeah, no, it was motorcycle dudes. We found out who they were and we wanted no part of them. The sun was going down, we got the heck out of here. So yeah, I can attest to the motorcycle games coming out here and partying firsthand.
Yeah, this was very active area.
Yeah.
For years and years and years and years.
Yeah. The Forest Preserve Police, lots of reports of finding animal carcasses and stuff along the lines of that. When Ron and I came out here the first time, we found evidence almost in this vicinity where we are here of like a kind of temple and a bunch of like the religious candles all set up out here.
Wow.
And that had not been out here a couple weeks prior to Ron and I coming out here, because I was out here with a friend of mine just kind of scoping out the range. I was trying to impress Ron and just make sure we had a good kind of point A to point Z, what areas to hit and show him.
Are those candles right there?
No.
No? It sure looks like it from a distance.
Peanut butter, jelly.
Oh, peanut butter and jelly jars.
Maybe.
Looked like that had a wick on it.
Yeah, that one's plastic, this one's glass. It's like plastic.
Yeah.
Plastico.
But my friends, I had good friends. We didn't do anything like that. We just came out here for the folklore of it.
My friends were good. We were mischief makers, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, normal mischief makers is one thing.
We weren't about violence or hurting people.
Right.
Or destroying
Same here.
You know, back in the early 90s, break dancing and graffiti, you know, that was kind of the extent of our, I can't call breakdancing criminal activity, but the graffiti stuff definitely. We didn't really take it serious. And I actually got arrested doing graffiti in my back alley when I was 13 years old. Me and a buddy of mine, right along the, in between the L tracks and the Metro tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, we got caught, man. A couple dudes on their lunch break from one of the factories rounded us up. I had a big backpack of all these spray paint cans. My grandma was a florist at that time, and she used to work in our garage in the back off of the alley right there. And she had all kinds of really glittery, elaborate spray paints and stuff. I had a whole backpack loaded. That earned me 100 hours of community service, which I will never forget. Yeah, my
You know,
8th grade
that's
year.
just like you said, mischief, though. That's, I mean, kids do
Yeah.
weird things, and that's normal weird things. I mean, when you start killing people and sacrificing animals, and that's a whole nother ball game.
I think I've already said it once, Brittan. You need to get that book written.
Yeah, eventually. My memoirs of a Chicago guy.
Yeah, that would be a great book.
The North Side.
And then after the book, you need to do the movie.
Maybe.
Whatever happened to that thing that was going to be on TV that you had something to do with?
Still in the works. Still haven't heard anything, honestly. A lot of it depended on the director Eli Roth, who is going to be producing and kind of publishing our series. His success in Tinseltown, he hasn't been very successful with the last few movies he directed and produced. And when I last saw him in August at the Flashback Con, he pretty much was just beating around the bush about it. He told me to the film Borderlands. And now there's a video that's coming out. I told you with Ron and I doing a tour at Mount Carmel,
Yeah.
where Ron kind of asks me about it and goes into detail. And this was before I was with Eli Roth back at the convention. But yeah, no, still waiting. We have about 200 hours worth of footage that covers about 20 to 25 different stories, Chicagoland lore. Of course,
That would be a
Bachelor's
cool
Grove.
movie. I mean,
We did Bachelor's Grove. We did Resurrection Mary. We did the Devil Baby of the Hull House. Just to name a few off the bat. The Tragedies, the Iroquois, Death Alley next to the old Iroquois location. The Eastland Disaster right along the Riverwalk right there. We actually did kind of like a little paranormal study thing there. Paranormal experiment research right there in the riverbank. Well, have you seen enough?
yeah, I appreciate it once again for taking us here, Brittan, because
Yeah.
you're a
That
wealth
is our
of
breach in
information.
the fence line. That's our way out.
Yeah, we better get out of here, huh? Before the motorcycle gang shows up. We'll be the next sacrifice.
Knock on wood. No, there's a saying that when you like call on the devil comes to dance.
Yeah,
And
true,
that's
right?
so true with my bar. I'll be sitting there with some of my regulars talking, and there'll just be, we'll just put it, an undesirable soul. And we'll just start talking about him, and all of a sudden it'll just be like a little hush of silence. And before you know it, here this guy comes walking into the side door of the bar. Like, okay, we shouldn't have started talking about him. He heard us talking about him.
Yeah, here we are.
How did we do?
All right, adios, guys.
Ella LaBaugh, the turn of the 20th century, made it her life's mission, her personal crusade, to try to preserve as much of the forested areas around here that she could. You had, with this being an industrial rail line, you had constant working and going this way more north all along the, well, you could see this parking lot right here is a great big factory. I think they're die casters or something like that. But, and a lot of it today is not the trades. It's more like computer stuff and shipping and storage. But back
Yeah.
at that time, it was really industrial. It was polluting, very much so. And there was a section along this railroad track where they were just like dumping lead and all kinds of poisonous bad stuff, and she made it her crusade to get this area all protected and preserved. And she had help from the church that had the burial ground at St. Luke's, and she had help from the old, I can't remember the guy's name who owned the original pauper field right here that merged with Montrose Cemetery. But she drums up enough attention in City Hall to get this area designated as what becomes a forest preserve. And also no more factories, no more building, no more industrial stretching from downtown. Yeah, Ella LaBaugh, Miss Ella LaBaugh. Dig into her, Mr. Overboard. Considered the original animal rights activist, too.
Oh, yeah. That's someone Lisa might be interested in, too. She loves animals, all animals. Like,
You had at one time thousands of white-tailed deer, peregrine falcons. That's one that I believe is still on the endangered species list. They were all indigenous to this area here.
so is that Brittan? This street right here, is that like a continuation of Bryn Mawr?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could get to it from either side.
Well, you can't drive.
Well, no, I mean, well, you can't drive, like that guy is coming that way,
Mhm.
you can't do that.
And then a change of neighborhoods too.
Oh,
This becomes Forest Glen, Sauganash, more west.
yeah. Okay. Just wondering.
And Forest